Coming up on Mountain News at 6, one national leader visits eastern Kentucky with a promise that federal resources will be here as long as it's needed. And after her practice was destroyed by the flood, one local doctor chose to stay and serve.
Plus, it's the second day of meteorological fall, but it still feels more like summer. Details on what this means for your Labor Day weekend forecast coming up as Mountain News at 6 starts now.
Dedicated to eastern and southern Kentucky, this is WYMT Mountain News at 6.
Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, along with Senate President Robert Stivers and Kentucky Treasurer Allison Ball, were all in Hazard today, meeting with local leaders and hearing from flood survivors. WYMT's Dakota Makris reports on the latest flood relief efforts from federal and state leaders.
Senator Mitch McConnell began Friday morning at the ARH Flood Relief Donation Center in Hazard, meeting with flood survivors and thanking volunteers.
I've never seen anything worse than the city of Mayfield after the tornado in December. But if I had to now equate that tornado disaster with the flooding disaster, I think the flooding is actually worse.
The senator joined federal, state, and local officials at Hazard City Hall for a closed-door meeting.
This is going to be a long process, much tougher than a comeback from the tornadoes in western Kentucky.
He says federal and state officials are committing to staying for the long-term recovery. He says it will take years to solve housing issues, saying our region had housing problems before, but it was made worse by flooding.
Question was raised about fixing housing and has FEMA completed it. Those are unknown, but there are private dollars out there with these organizations to start helping individuals repair their houses.
Hearing an emotional testimony from one survivor who Senator McConnell says was especially persuasive.
The difficulty of coordination among agencies, restrictions that these folks have that don't seem to make sense, apply to this situation.
FEMA officials also mentioned how approved federal dollars have surpassed $100 million. In Hazard, Dakota Makris, WYMT Mountain News.
Senator McConnell said FEMA will be in the region for, quote, as long as it takes, and that's exactly what they told me today in our studios. Well, we want to give you an update on the ARH Disaster Relief Distribution Center at the old JCPenney building in Hazard. ARH tells us at least 3,500 people representing families have stopped by the distribution center. In turn, the regional CEO says more than 14,000 people have been helped. He says they see nearly 100 people every day, adding they could use more volunteer help as it takes about 35 people a day to manage the center.
Obviously, the more, the easier it is on the individuals working. So we certainly welcome people to come out and help us. Obviously, a very good cause and helping a very much needed population right now.
The distribution center has plenty of donations of water and clothes. If you plan to donate, the center could really use food and cleaning supplies. ARH officials say the center will stay open as long as there is a need. FEMA will have 5 disaster recovery centers open on Labor Day. The centers will be open from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the Breathitt County Library, Knott County Sportsplex, Letcher County Recreation Center, Hazard Community and Technical College, and in Pike County at Dorton Community Center. The Disaster Recovery Center in Clay County closed at 2 p.m. today, but it will reopen at 7 a.m. on Tuesday. Now, earlier today, I did sit down with representatives from FEMA to ask them about the agency's response to the flooding. One FEMA liaison encourages folks whose claims were denied by FEMA to contact their helpline or go to one of the disaster recovery centers in person. I also asked her about those who were approved being upset at the size of their checks. Obviously, a lot of people might see that as kind of a slap in the face. I'm just getting $200, I mean, and I've lost everything. So why could that be?
Well, unfortunately, with the $200, that's just a general figure, and it's usually just for a contractor's estimate. Because when it comes to HVACs, wells, septic tanks, private roads, and private bridges, we would rather go off of a contractor's estimate than to go off of our inspectors giving a round figure.
You can see my full conversation with FEMA and a representative from SBA on Issues and Answers. It'll air this Monday night at 7 p.m. The Kentucky Transportation Cabinet has started work to permanently replace more than 170 county and state bridges damaged or destroyed during the recent flooding. Of the 170 bridges determined to need work, approximately 100 of them will require a full replacement or replacement of the area at the top of the bridge. 33 bridges have been initially targeted for rapid replacements throughout Perry, Knott, Pike, Letcher, and Floyd counties.
Well, continuing to watch at least a couple areas with some showers and storms this evening, but they are rather few and far between at the moment. A look outside from our Mountain Parkway camera at Slade. We're in the mid-80s right now. You can actually see where we've had a few showers so far along the Mountain Parkway there, but they are mostly off to the west. Zooming in, you see the heaviest of the storms that were across portions of Rockcastle County are staying out of the area, out toward Garrett and Madison counties, but there's that shower that was not far from Slade a little bit earlier, now pushing into the western portions of Morgan County, and now watching a few more trying to bubble up across portions of Wayne County. Temperatures warm and humid, low to mid 80s out there. So as we head through tonight, spotty storms early, back to partly cloudy late, upper 60s to near 70, winds calm. I'll have the latest on when we could see an increase in more showers and storms in just a few minutes. Steve?
Evan, thanks. Fleming Neon got around 10 feet of water inside buildings at one point during the flood, destroying several businesses and churches. WYMT's Chandler Wilcox tells us about a local doctor that lost her office but is still working and seeing patients.
Dr. Brenda Baker's office had water touching the ceiling in some spots as it destroyed everything in the building. Could they leave? Baker says that was out of the question.
If we had just pulled up stakes and just gone somewhere else, then I think that would have probably been a very negative impact on the community.
Baker and her staff had to think quickly with so many patients needing care. Staff took what equipment they had to Fleming Neon Middle School.
We put up signs on Dr. Baker's old office, taped up signs that we were in the school building, and then we had signs on the school building. We just made large signs and put them up that we were there.
Baker and her staff then moved into a camper where they have stayed for a few weeks, but not without a bump in the road.
I had COVID. I came down with COVID the day after the flood, and it was that BA5 variant, and I got very sick with it.
Bonita Robinson took on duties with Baker sick, making sure they could still reach patients.
We were going to be there for them. That really helped bring some peace and settlement to the community.
Now the doctor's office has gotten some donations, and Baker is back at work helping patients. It is almost a family reunion after so much happened a month ago.
Well, I've been here 30 years, so, you know, I'd say probably 80% of my patients are like family to me.
Baker says they plan to stay in the camper in Neon for a few more weeks and then move on to a double wide that will be their permanent home. In Neon, Chandler Wilcox, WYMT Mountain News.
Baker says they plan to use the camper as a mobile unit that can go different places and treat patients. First Baptist Church in Hazard has been housing volunteers from across the state and beyond who came to help after the flood. Pastor Tim Reynolds says during the past few weeks they've had nearly 250 people stay at their church while they are in the community volunteering. The church has been feeding people and giving them a place to sleep since the beginning.
We knew that this wasn't going to be a one-week thing and done. And it may be 6 months, it may be 6 years before it's totally over. We're here to serve those folks that come into our community. We still get calls.
Reynolds says right now their goal is to serve the people who have come in to serve our communities. And Olivia Calfee will have more at 11 on a volunteer from Michigan who's been staying at the church now for nearly a month.
And coming up, continuing to see a warm and humid air mass push into the region. The latest opportunity for showers and storms as well coming up. Plus,
Shot could make its way to pharmacies and health departments as early as next week.